go to your hot read. We've been alluding to it the entire time, and I think you already know. So you can start with Buffalo and Denver. What's the pick, and give us a little analysis?
Yeah, I love the Bills here. I got Bills minus 7.5. I think it's 8.5 now. Kind of a dead zone there, so I don't really mind it. Just get it before it's going to keep rising, because we're kind of in the spot where it's going to get to 9.5 for teaser protection. Just grab the Bills. I think in this round, you'll want the big favorites. Next round, you fade the big favorites, rested. We'll get to those trends in the division round later on, but kind of made the case earlier. I just don't think these are teams in the same weight class. Starting with the quarterbacks, we get rookie Bo Nix. We know what I think about Bo Nix. He's been pretty good this year, but on the road in Buffalo, hostile environment. The Bills are the number one offense at home for the season. Denver's defense, I think good offense beats good defense, and I think that's what we're going to see here. This defense gave up 41 to Baltimore when they played them earlier this year. That's the sort of offense that Buffalo is, not stylistically, but that's sort of the level that they are. Denver only beat 2 teams all year that won a playoff game. One of them today against the Chiefs, so that barely counts. One against the Bucs. They got crushed by Baltimore. They got swept by the Chargers. They lost twice in a row against real opponents trying to get into the playoffs before kind of getting this one handed to them today. I looked this up. Heading into Sunday, Denver had played so far this season 6 games against a top 13 offense by DVOA. They were 1-5 in those games. They obviously count one for the win today against the Chiefs, but that's not a top 13 offense they played today. They allowed 30, 34, and 41 in 3 of those games. So, and the defense has been sort of falling off a little bit anyways. The numbers are going to look pretty good today because of what they did. But heading into today, last 6 weeks, they were 14th in DVOA against the run and the pass, right around league average there. So the trends here, we only had 4 years since we expanded to get a 7 seed into the playoffs. So we have 8 7 seeds so far. 5 of the 8 lost by 12 or more points. So these games have not really been that competitive. Only one of them won the game. That was Packers last year. They're now the 7 seed on their side of the bracket. Wildcard hosts, I mentioned this trend earlier, that made the playoffs last year against an opponent that didn't. Denver did not make the playoffs, not for the last 8 years. Those teams are 22, 10, and 1 ATS, 69% for the Bills. So that's basically a trend saying, hey, the team that we knew was going to be in the playoffs against the team that sort of surprised and got here, that experience shines through. And last one, home favorites of 9 or more this round are 10 and 1 ATS the last 2 decades. We're not 9 or more yet. I think we're going to get there, as I mentioned. So Bills minus 7.5. I took that at DraftKings. We've got a link up in the podcast and the video description. You can click that for a quick slip link, and then the DraftKings app will open. You get your pick in there. Get the best number you can, obviously. But in that dead zone range, I just think the Bills are going to coast in this one and win pretty easily.
Yeah, that 10 and 1 number is a little scary for Pittsburgh and Baltimore as well. We might have 2 really big spreads in this round. All right. You're looking at a total here. You've alluded to it too. Chargers, Texans. I like this one, but at what number do you like it to?
Yeah, I got Chargers, Texans under 44.5. We'll get to the number in a second. It's already falling a little bit, but let me make the case first. Kind of got to the case a bit earlier. It's defense. Both these teams are defensive identity first. Both defenses, I think, clearly have the edge over the opposing offense. Chargers defense, we talked about it. They faded a little bit down the stretch, but I think the Texans offense is a pretty good elixir for that because the Texans offense has not been good at any point this season. They're bottom quarter of the league passing and rushing. And in particular, the Chargers are top 5 against wide receiver 1, but bottom 5 against wide receiver 2. A different version of Houston, that could have been a problem. But this version has Nico Collins, who's the only good thing they do on offense, and nothing else after that. So if the Chargers can limit or take away Nico, I don't know what the Texans offense can do. On the other side, Chargers offense certainly improving, but Houston is one of the best defenses in the league. They're the number 1 defense in the league at home. They have a great pass rush. I think they have a good shot to kind of limit things for the Chargers. And again, conservative mindset here, kind of running the clock. I think this is just going to low scoring opening game. Chargers defense has been better on the road this season. Their offense has been worse on the road. And both these teams were under teams this season too. Houston goes 11-6 to the under. The Chargers weren't as much of an under team late in the season, but certainly early in the season they were. I think if this line moves too much on the total, first half under will be a good pivot as well. Both these teams are especially good defensively early in the game. And then I kind of talked about earlier, just like not really believing in these games, but in these teams. This is just the ugly early Saturday game to start the playoffs off. Now to the number here, under 44.5 if you can get it still. 40 to 44 is a really important range with key numbers. 40, 41, 43, 44, those are all kind of key numbers with totals. Not quite as big of a deal as like a field goal and a touchdown, the 3 and the 7 on a spread. But definitely you want to grab this one now because I got the 44.5. Most books now are at 43.5. If it keeps on falling, you lose a key number, you don't want it to go too much in that direction. So under 44.5, Chargers, Texans. Get this one at BetMGM. Again, if you want a tail, you can find a quick sip link in the podcast and the video description. Click that. It'll pop up right into your app, have the pick ready for you to go, and we'll get that under, start the playoffs out 1-0, hopefully.
Yeah, if you want to know what direction that Chargers-Texans line is going, the first half total is 21.5. And the full game is now 43.5. So I expect the full game to probably start dropping a little bit to at least that 43 range. So when you're listening to this, hopefully click the link. Don't forget, we've got quick sip links for Brandon's hot read picks for next week in the podcast and video description. So if you want to tail, just tap the link.